it is recognised that those workers working in the informal economy are exposed to significant occupational safety and health risk due to the lack of those social protections and the lack of being protected by legislation through labour protections and through occupational safety and health protections.
When we say informal, it means there is no formal structure. The formal sector gives a structure. There's an organogram, there are roles and responsibilities. So it protects the woman and takes their mind off some things like, how am I going to make this amount today? How am I going to do this today? They know that those structures are set.
When we're looking at those in the informal economy, it's through building up that OSH capacity on the ground, supporting good working practices, safe working environments, imparting information on workers' rights, which they might not have already known before, will help build and support that transition to get into the formal economy.
There's been some huge challenges in terms of giving people the belief to move into the formal economy. Because if you take Kenya, for example, where all of the social infrastructure through tax, is paid for by 20% of the population. If you have 80% of the people sitting outside of the formal system in the informal economy, who's going to pay? So the movement of the people into the formal economy with a fair taxation system is a real challenge for these emerging economies of sub-Saharan Africa. What's putting people off of moving into the formal economy is what's in it for them.
So when we think about how we bridge the gap, there is the work we can do at the local level, on the ground, but there's also the work that we need to do from top down, where we've talked about governments needing to set the right occupational safety and health framework through legislation, national plans and programmes. So the coming together of this agenda will help drive decent work.
The governments, we need to work with them really, really hard to make sure that those jobs that are created for people in those sectors are safe and healthy jobs. So for example, in Kenya, we're working with the government there to not just train mechanics and plumbers and carpenters, but to train safe and healthy mechanics, plumbers and carpenters. So as people move into those professions, artisan professions as they're referred to in Africa, they're decent, healthy and safe jobs.
Really thank you World Council for really supporting the programs and even creating times for us to have this discussion.
Our country has very robust legislations that guide the labour sector. And these legislations include the Occupational Safety and Health Act, which ensures safety in the workplace, the Work Injury Benefits Act, which ensures the compensation of workers in case they get injured. Now, you'll understand the frustration of government when we have these robust legislative and policy documents that can best be applied in a formal setting. It means that our workers who are involved in the informal sector remain unprotected.
When we do look at policy changes at a national level, it's really important that you look at that policy context of that particular country. So what is happening in that country, from how many workers are in the formal economy versus how many are in the informal economy. So when we're looking at the policy context, it's important that we do look at all the data that's available from that national level, and then that can be used to influence the national occupational safety and health legislation, the national action plans, so we know where to invest time and effort to support workers, and also what programmes of activity need to be put in place at the ground.
Once you spread that word that this project occurred, this and this came out of it, what's going to happen is those in the position to make those changes are going to sit back and think. We need to expand our policy thought process. We need to expand the scope of our policy. Let's stop focusing just on the formal sector, but also focus on the informal sector. Another important thing is that we will need the policy initiatives to create a framework, a structure that enables people to easily transition from the informal sector to the formal sector.
So the journey towards formalization is a journey towards giving decency back to this worker. There may be a lot of challenges that might be there, because sometimes you might find persons who are working in highly hazardous occupations, and the option of clearly training them and sensitizing them on correct work, safe work practices that is relevant to what they do might be one journey. For persons who may completely be unsuited for this kind of role, a retraining with a reskilling to different skill sets that can still earn them a decent living could be another way. So the issue of creating formal, safe work environments through the adoption of the national standards of safety and health and labor standards, but also the identification of persons who may require to be identified for retraining and reskilling and vocational training.
Governments want decent work for their workers. We can help through articulating through risk assessments and through supporting their policies and their OSH national plans. We can help articulate and quantify and give granularity to what that looks like. So for example, with robust OSH national plans focused on where harm is occurring in a country, we can give assurance to people like the World Bank, the Africa Development Bank and the other investors that this country is a good place to invest. That if any infrastructure projects that these banks are investing in means that the workers won't get harmed along the way, they're more likely to put money in there than somewhere else.
Moving from the informal to a formal sector has really helped them improve in their production. We are able to get them the facility, although it's barely 2 months old, but now they've moved from under trees closer to the market where the new facility is. So now their production have increased and they also have easy access to the market compared to what we were last year.
The transformation into the formal sector, from informal to formal, would also mean that they are held under some standards in terms of health and safety. As OSH professionals, what we are doing is getting them ready to meet those standards.
We've advocated for a long time for work to be good work, to be decent work, and this means work that is safe, healthy, sustainable work that accommodates people's needs. So it's not just about having work, we need to have decent work. And this is what these projects are illustrating to us, is that through the provision of decent work, building occupational safety and health capacity through awareness, raising opportunities, informing about the rights of those workers, we can see that it supports the transition to the formal economy.
Yes, we are celebrating, but we're not yet there in terms of victory. We still have a long way to go. We still need partners. We still need funding for these women to be able to scale their production.